All right, welcome back. New chapter. What I'm going to do now is actually take I'm going to come down here to this rubble layer, and this level's 2 right here. This is going to become the basis for the highlights for the entire stone, for the entire texture. Because I found that the effect down here was excellent, and what's really missing right now as I'm looking at this, what's really missing is well, like life, it's missing highlights and shadows. Now, we did a great job in creating all these tiny areas right in here and some of this up here and down there. But those are really small parts of kind of the larger picture, which is this texture. You notice we have so much square footage right here, or screen acreage, or square pixelage, that is entirely flat. This over here is flat. These boards, flat. So it's time to change that. That's been killing me over these past few chapters. So it's time to, well, kick it up a notch. All right. So what I'll do is I'll take this layers 2, right here, my levels, or my levels 2, and move this. I'm gonna bring this down. Move this to the very top of the stack. So nothing down here changed in these areas, but this obviously changed. Like, that area got brighter, and if we have a look at the channel, we see that we've got those 2 little white areas right in there. So this is evaluating as expected. But I'm going to use the same kind of, the same levels and the same settings inside of it, and those settings are 0, 1, and 205. So I set my white point to something with a value of 205, and I kept my white and black points the same. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out the layer mask. So Control Backspace. Now it's gone back to flat. But I'm going to use the gradient tool. So G, over here, bring up the gradient tool. And it will use, the default setting is to use the foreground and background color. So I'm just going to make an initial gradient. And if you can see this line, see how it's kind of, as I sway it across, it's diagonal. If I hold down Shift, it snaps to 90s and 45s. Alright, so obviously this is an excellent improvement, but I'm going to undo that and make this gradient just a little bit larger. Bring it down here. Alright. So I wanted to make sure to get this area up here really hit by, sunlight, and down here, a little bit more, but not as much. I definitely wanted to get the boards right in here. I want to keep this area down here dark. Now, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to get my brush, just a standard brush right here, and bracket left and right to increase or decrease, and shift bracket left to make more fuzzy. And I'll go ahead and add those highlights back in. Alright. Alright, so I have I've got a real great start. It's a little bit too perfect for me right now. And I'm also not receiving the same kind of light that I'd like to down here, like on the top of the arch, or on the top of the door stones, or even on the door itself. Also on the window over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, so we've already corrected the rubble mound down here, and I'll actually just start with the area of door stones below the arch, right down here. So in order to do that, I will get I've got this already right here, so I can control select that layer mask, and looks like that is an older layer mask, so I will open up the arch. Here we go. And to get the area selected, I have my layer mask selected, and I'm going over to the channels right here. I'm going to get up my magic wand tool, make sure contiguous is turned on. With contiguous turned off, it will select all the red, or more appropriately, all the black. And we do not want that right now. So I'll select this area, hide the layer mask, and come up here to the levels 2, and here I will start painting. Alright. Turn the opacity down a little bit so I can have a smoother gradient to the bottom. And then X. There we go. So we've got the area of the door stones below the arch, and now there's the top of the arch to get. So I'll control select the actual arch stones and come back to the levels 2 layer mask, and this time I'll just draw a gradient right down here. Oh, okay, so it's backwards, so I can undo, Control Z, and press X to switch my program background colors, or if I want to, I can press this reverse button right up here. Alright, so that is lighter. Now looking at this, I see that my blast damage is a little bit too strong, so come in, I'll paint some of this out. Just so we can increase that highlight right there. Turn down my opacity so that it's not out of place. Okay, so I've got the top of the arch, and I've got the door, and now we'll just do this little graded window over here. Let me select the levels 2 layer mask and do that again. There we go. Perfect. So now it's lighter at the bottom and darker at the top, reinforcing the sense that that window is actually inset in the stone. Alright, so one single adjustment layer has this effect on the entire image. Turn this off. Wow. That's amazing. That's huge. Oh, while we're at it, some other areas to, so now that we've painted some areas in, and the last area that I want to paint in would be the side stones over here. So I'll open up these side stones, right? Control select the actual layer itself. And I'll deselect, I just want to affect the left over here and the right over here. So I will deselect using the marquee tool M, and holding down Alt, I'll deselect these stones up here. And coming right back up, making sure that I have the levels 2 layer mask selected, again with the gradient tool. just to brighten those up just a little bit more. Alright, so now that we've painted certain areas in, there's other areas that we need to paint out. So areas to paint out would be all the areas where there are shadows. So underneath here, let me turn my opacity back up. Right in there. This area. In fact, let me soften my brush a little bit so that edge isn't so hard. And now to get this blue area right in here, I could go back and repaint it if I wanted to, but there's an easier way to get that selection. So what I'll do is actually come down here. First of all, that information is stored in the stone facade area. So what I'll do first is, select, first of all, I need to make sure that whatever I have selected, excuse me, I have this blue area needs to be in the selection. So I will go ahead and select the stone facade copy 4's inner shadow. Now I need to deselect everything else but that blue. And looking right over here, I see that this layer mask starts and stops right here. So I'll get out the magic wand tool, which is W, and making sure now that I have intersect with selection turned on. So instead of subtract from selection or add to selection, I'm now going to intersect with selection. And to make this work properly, I'm going to go over here to the channels and view the channel right there and just click, not in the red, but right here. And now I get this real nice selection right there. Okay, so I'll turn off the visibility for that. Come back up here to the top, levels 2, and now I can brush freely. And as I'm brushing, you can see this get much darker. Now the reason I didn't flood is that I've got certain areas like here, certain areas, and also down here that I don't want to darken. Or rather that I want to receive the highlight. So that's why I didn't flood using Alt Backspace. Okay, so that's got a little bit more contrast going on there. So this is before, and this is after. It's looking excellent. So that was just to create the highlight. Now we can take this, levels 2, duplicate it. Now we have some really strong highlight, but what we're going to do first is actually invert, Control I, invert this layer mask, and turn this into a darkening, or as my lab assistant calls it, the darking effect. So we'll go ahead and set some values in here. Let's turn this up to here and turn down our white spot. So it just kind of brought this area a little bit into the darker. And that might be too much. And if that is too much, if that's too much for your taste, you can always just turn down the opacity. Find a value that you like. All right. Okay, so I'll take these two layers and add them to their own layer set. And we'll call this lighting, darking. We'll give it its own color. Okay. The next thing I want to do is kind of bleach this wood out a little bit. It's a little bit too, well, dark. So for that, I've got this texture right here. I'll take this and drag it right into the middle, somewhere right up there. Hide that. Move this one down here. Now with this one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add this to its own layer set. So new layer set, wood bleaching. I hope that's the proper spelling of bleaching. We'll go ahead and go with blue this time. Add this to a layer set and like that. And now I'll also give this, I'll give this its own layer mask. I'm holding down shift to ensure that I get a proper 90-degree rotation, or I could just come up in here and type it. Or if I didn't want to type it, notice if I move my cursor right on the angle, I have the left and right arrow. I can hold down and drag to the left or to the right. And you can do that with any of these values. So with the scale, width, or height. Any shearing. I've gone so much I'll just have to start over. Okay, we'll center that. Hold down Alt to make sure the scaling happens on both sides. Alright, hit enter. Now, that's obviously not in a great place for it. So,